This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's Sweetheart, Davian. And
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit, Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
This is the son of wrestling, Vincent Michaels, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show with Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today, the trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I am, of course, your host, James J., and it is a great day for wrestling because we are wrestling with the son of wrestling, Vincent Michaels.
That's right. Thank you for having me, James. It is your pleasure. It is my pleasure to be here today. And you're going to find out why they call me the son, because you're going to find that I'm one of the brightest and boldest young stars that you're going to have on this platform to date. So let's get rolling.
And when is the next time that people could look at the sun, event-wise?
Oh, man, if you want to experience the sun, I'm currently based out of New Jersey, but I'm hitting New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, trying to break out into the Pennsylvania territory. I'm trying to get everywhere and anywhere I can right now. So you can currently, if you're looking for promotions in the New Jersey area, you're going to look up Pro Wrestling Magic. I'm wrestling on their next event, December 23rd, towards the end of the year. You're going to want to go on YouTube, Primetime Pro Wrestling. It's an episodic YouTube series of shows that I'm going to be featured on for many weeks and I'm sure months to come. That's all I got on the top of my head right now. I'm sure we'll discuss more as we get into this conversation, James.
Oh, yeah. And where can we find you on social media and your merchandise?
Social media, you're going to want to look up at Vincent Michaels. Pretty self-explanatory. Think Shawn Michaels, but it's Vincent in the front instead of Shawn. That's where I based my name off of, actually. And for any merchandise you'd want to order from me, you can look up that name on Pro Wrestling Tees, and you're going to find a variety of cool items. I design everything myself, and I hope and think you'll enjoy them.
All right. And you don't even have to look for it. All his social medias will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox, simply click the link and you will be there. Alright, let's get into it. You work for Pro Wrestling Magic and Chosen Pro Wrestling. Can you tell us about your relationship with those companies?
Well, man, Chosen Pro Wrestling is the brainchild of one PJ Savage. For people that may not know of PJ, depending on what region you're from, PJ is, he's a visionary. He is a guy that worked his knuckles to the bone to give young guys like me an opportunity in the Northeast area. Chosen Pro is a subsection, a developmental territory sorts of Titan Championship Wrestling that PJ has a great affiliation with. And PJ thought that the best way to find and discover young up-and-coming talents like me was to develop this brand, Chosen Pro, and take a lot of guys like me with all the talent and potential in the world, maybe not all the name exposure you'd want at this stage of the game, try to give us a platform to work off of each other, and from there it's all iron sharpens iron, you know?
Right.
And then as far as Pro Wrestling Magic, man, Pro Wrestling Magic is one of the first independents that I reached out to after I got back from training with Black and Brave Academy in Iowa. Because Pro Wrestling Magic is also based out of northern New Jersey, and they're one of the most consistent independents going right now with storylines, with characters, with a lot of the top names in the Northeast region that people always come out to see. It doesn't matter if it's you know it doesn't matter what the scene looks like currently. You can always guarantee on Pro Wrestling Magic to take established names, up and coming names, mix them together, and put on an entertaining show. And I started doing ring crew for them at the tail end of 2022, and it's crazy because they're a company with so much brain trust that puts a lot of thought and care into long-term planning and long-term booking of storylines and who they're going to feature. And only really now have I actually gotten a chance to be on shows consistently, but I'm already reaping the benefits of that because it's the most exposure I think I've had so far in the entire Northeast scene. And, it's not just the Northeast. I mean, these shows air on IWTV. They are projecting across the United States at this point, and that's only going to help guys like me get their stock up as I progress in the business.
And keeping on the topic of Pro Wrestling Magic, not too long ago, you competed for the Dark Arts title. I believe it was against Steve Off. What was I believe that was also your first ever title match as well. So what can you tell us about that match and that experience competing for a title, especially one in a well-known indie like Pro Wrestling Magic?
It's crazy because coming from the school that I'm sure we'll get into in my training background and all of that sorts with Black and Brave Wrestling Academy, but when you have a name like that behind you, as people can imagine out there, whether you're a wrestler or a wrestling fan, there are a lot of expectations that comes along with that background and a lot of things that you want to live up to. And for me, one of those things in wrestling is winning a championship, being someone that isn't just looked at as being a centerpiece of a company, but someone that it's worth investing in, someone that displays the talent and the drive and the dedication that other independent companies, and hopefully the bigger companies that have television and all of those sorts of things, can look at and say, this guy is marketable, this guy is worth our time, our money, our investment, and everything that goes into putting a championship on a performer. So whether it is my character, Vincent Michaels, or the real guy named Michael behind this character, winning a championship in wrestling is something that I'm not going to be satisfied with my career in any way, shape, or form until I win a championship. And for a company like Pro Wrestling Magic and a wonderful competitor like Steve Off to give me an opportunity to wrestle for a championship for the first time so early into my career, I may not have won, but it was a big bucket list item for me as far as showing that, I think I've got what it takes to make it in this game long term.
And maybe we saw a different side of you after that match. The hand got extended, and it just didn't kind of go well for Steve Off afterwards.
Listen, there isn't any way to word it besides this. The Son of Wrestling, when people hear that name, they think to themselves, what does that mean? Sun. Okay, he spells it S-U-N, like the planet? What does that mean? Is he on fire? Is he gonna destroy our ozone later? Like, what's his end game here? Now, what people need to realize is that the Son of Wrestling is the center of the wrestling universe. And when you're the center of the wrestling universe, it means that everything revolves around you. And when someone else decides to step into my spotlight, then things are going to happen to them that probably shouldn't be happening to them, but that's not my fault. That's their fault. So when you decide that you can get a handshake from the Son of Wrestling, it might be a glowing endorsement, but you're going to be in some pain afterwards. And Steve Off didn't realize that. And I actually just got to be back in the ring with him for the first time since that match last weekend or 2 weekends ago from when this podcast will be airing. And yeah, he didn't forget. I didn't forget. And I'm sure it's not the only times that me and him are going to step into the ring.
So you're saying that he flew too close to the sun?
That's right. That's right. Because you know what happens when you fly too close to the sun, baby? You get burned.
Somebody that also learned that the hard way was Jay Outkast. Can you tell us about your friendship and
Oh boy.
demise of
Oh
that
boy.
friendship?
Sure. So Jay and I go back a long way. Not a lot of people know this. If you're in our circles, people know this. But I actually went to college with Jay.
Oh, okay.
And the very interesting thing about Jay and me is that we weren't exactly the closest of friends, but everybody assumed that we were, because on campus we were the two head honchos when it came to projecting an affinity and a love for pro wrestling. You know, whenever you saw me or him on campus, we always had our wrestling merch on, our t-shirts, our hoodies, whatever you could think of. And people always knew that we were those guys. We're the two crazy-ass kids that are going to go one day when we're out of college, and we're going to go put our bodies on the line, and we're going to do what it takes to get into wrestling. And who would have imagined, I certainly couldn't have imagined, that now we would both be running in so many of the same promotions, coming up at the same time, rubbing against each other, paths crossing. But when I say that I didn't expect it with Jay, honestly, it's because I never thought he was good enough. And I've told Jay that to his face. And the name like Jay Outkast, it's quite funny. He always had more friends than I did in college. So for him to call himself an outcast, I think it's a little pretentious to give yourself a name and give yourself a reputation like that, considering that, you know, to put a layman's term on it, I think that he's lying to the people. And I think that for all the fanfare he gets, I don't think it matters. I don't think it does him a world of good when he's in the ring with someone like me, because I don't need fanfare to drive me. All I need is me, myself, my ego, my accomplishments, and knowing deep down in my heart and soul that I will always be a better wrestler than him. I don't care if we came from the same starting point. I am lapping him right now. And the next time I get in a ring with Jay Outkast, Jay, if you're listening, you're going to find that out hard and fast and true.
Now, getting into something, into the more recent events, you've been teaming with, and aligned yourself with, and I believe I'm pronouncing this correct, Mateo, Marcelo, and Tommy. Can you tell us about your relationship with them?
Yes, and actually, when he's able to be around, we also have a third man under the tutelage of Tommy. His name is Travis Jacobs, a very well-known, prominent name in the Northeast region. And yes, we call ourselves the Ice Pack. And, you know, it's kind of funny because Travis, the reason he's not around all the time is because sometimes he doesn't treat me so good. And I really don't know why, because I just want this group to all get along. We are an island of misfits, and Tommy has tried to put something together with the three of us that I don't think any of the three of us even realize what potential we all have as a trios team. I've tried to get us into tag teams. I've tried to get us into trios title matches. And it just always never works out our way. And Travis always seems to blame me. But I just don't think he realizes how much love he needs in his life from his comrades. Because, you know, he's a bit of a loner. I'm a bit of a loner. Mateo, you know, I'll be honest, there's a language barrier there. I can't always understand what he's saying, but I think I understand him, and that's what counts. I know how to read people. And when you're talking about a group of individuals like us, and you put us together in this pack, and you look at us and you think to yourself, what are they? They're cold as ice, the Ice Pack. You know, when we all get together, we're the coolest thing going, man. And I can only hope that in the future, the three of us and Tommy, our wonderful manager, we can make more magic together in Pro Wrestling Magic. Travis, if you're listening, hi. I miss you.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you and Mateo picked Travis up in a bar?
No, actually, so what you might be talking about is we did our most recent opponent at Pro Wrestling Magic, a wonderful deviant by the name of Troy Locke. We found him in a bar,
Yes.
and oh yeah, it's all right. And that led to our most recent match, our most recent tag team match at Pro Wrestling Magic, where Troy Locke decided to pick Steve off as his tag team partner. It's okay. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. But yeah, no. So that's what that whole bar scenario was, because that's the thing with a new team like me and Mateo. Sometimes we got to go out and we got to look for competition, because a lot of the tag team scene, they don't know what they have in us as far as competition. And so we got to go find our own food to play with, so to speak. And yeah, we went and found Troy in a bar, chatted him up. He was very disrespectful towards me. And I don't know what Mateo was saying, but I could tell that he really disrespected Mateo, and it led to our tag team match.
All right. Well, it seems like you are still in the early stages of, figuring everything out, but it does seem like, the possibilities are endless. That being said, the other members of Ice Pack, what is a pet peeve about all three of them that you just don't understand?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Yes, the three other members of Ice Pack, what is a pet peeve about them that you just don't understand?
Like I said, sometimes I just feel like the middle child. I feel like the one that's the most misunderstood, even though, to be honest, I can't ever understand a damn thing Mateo is saying half the time. And Travis is always just so angry and hurty towards me. I can't make out what he's saying through the punches he's throwing at my face. And, Tommy, he does a wonderful job helping with my wardrobe. But besides that, I don't really know what he's contributing to this group. But hey, it's all right, because I don't like to think in negatives. I like to think in positives. And for all of our faults we might have with each other, that's what makes us individuals, and that's what makes us a dynamic team and group.
Now, that tag team match you mentioned, the CM Punk MV on your wrist tape, that was before or after CM Punk's debut? I think it was the next day, right?
So the match itself was earlier that afternoon on the eve of Survivor Series night, and I thought to myself, there are so many references alluding to CM Punk all across wrestling media, wrestling television, and then I had the brightest idea I could ever think of. What if CM Punk came to Pro Wrestling Magic to wrestle me? How about I do something to get his attention while he sits on his ass on a Chicago couch? I'm going to go and don't get me wrong, I've always been a big fan of CM Punk. But let's be fair. What else was he doing until Sunday night? Nothing. He apparently signed his contract an hour before he went out. So as far as I knew, this was my best chance to get in the dude's head. So what do? I tape up my wrists. I think to myself, CM Punk, VM Punk, Vincent Michaels Punk. That's what I'm going to go with. He's going to be so enlightened by a younger, more experienced, more ethical pro wrestler taking after him, that he's going to have no choice but to come out of exile and wrestle me one-on-one at Pro Wrestling Magic. But, the show. I think the match aired a little late. You know, I really can't explain why he would decide to go to Survivor Series. I mean, I thought about going to Survivor Series too, Phil, but I didn't go. You know, maybe if I went, maybe I would have got handed your big money contract. I don't know. Just something to think about for future sake. Um, but yeah, no, VM Punk was a very in the moment. Let's see if I can have some fun here. Because for anyone that follows me on social media, I hate wrestling, by the way. I loathe it. I hate wrestling fans. I think pro wrestling sucks. So if I'm going to have any fun and enjoyment out of my pro wrestling career, it's going to be poking fun at other people, egging them on to fight me so I can beat them and reap the monetary benefits. Thank you.
Alright. Now, the one thing that I found really interesting at your time, training at Black and Brave, is that you actually worked inside a WWE standard ring, um, which is great if you are going to WWE. But I could imagine that it could have some disadvantages considering indie promotions don't normally carry, WWE standard rings. So could you tell us about the advantages and disadvantages of training in a WWE ring?
You know, it's crazy. For the typical person that may watch wrestling on television and then go to their local independent show and think to themselves, "My God, the ring is so much smaller. How do guys even navigate that?" I found the same difficulty transitioning from a 20 by 20 ring down to an 18 or even sometimes a 16 or 14-foot ring. You are having to compensate so much more for a lack of space, a lack of movement, a lack of literally a place to fall when you're doing moves and or taking moves.
Right.
It's actually crazy. Like, for example, if I'm doing a frog splash off the top rope, I have so much less margin for error because I don't have to worry about jumping so far across the ring in a 20 by 20 ring that I might not hit my head on the turnbuckle on the opposite side. Meanwhile, in a 20 by 20, I can jump as far or as high as I possibly can or want, and I'm going to land so much in the middle of that ring, like it's impossible to reach the other side. And that's really to every wrestler's benefit, I imagine. But by the same token, getting in a 20 by 20 ring is so nice for your in-ring cardio. Learning to run the ropes in a 20 by 20 and then transitioning to running the ropes with 4 less feet between the ropes. Oh, it's a godsend, honestly, because you're getting in there and there are people that are legitimately blown away by maybe how well you're able to do certain things from a cardio standpoint. And it's because I'm actually having to dumb myself down from the standards I had when I was training. So from that alone, it's actually crazy how much I prefer wrestling in a WWE style ring. Not to mention WWE rings are known to be and are, from what I've experienced, so much harder to bump in, to take a fall in, that when I go to these rings on the independent scene, it feels like, I mean, it always hurts, don't get me wrong, but it feels so much better on your body. It's more just about the lack of wear and tear over time. I can understand being a wrestler on television and needing to take gradual breaks here and there or take a weekend off just to let your body heal up because, man, I couldn't imagine it. When the time comes, I'll be ready. But it's so nice right now to be working in independent style rings compared to 20 by 20 TV style rings.
Okay. Now, keeping on, the topic of Black and Brave, you actually have a tattoo above your knee of Black and Brave and the class you were on. What inspired you to get it in ink?
Um, I'm a big fanatic of tattoos. And when I say that, I love looking at other people's tattoos, but I never had the fascination with getting just various pictures of various things on my body without really having a meaning or declaration behind them. And I'm not saying that's what other people do. I just don't know if I could see myself getting that plethora of tattoos in that sense. So when I do look for a tattoo, I want it to be something that A, is going to get attention, and B, something that means something to me deep down inside, that I'm never ever going to have regrets of it. I have the Eiffel Tower tattooed on my right forearm because I visited Paris once with my girlfriend, and beyond falling in love with Paris, I fell in love with the architecture. I fell in love with how the Eiffel Tower looked and how it was shaped and how it looked in pictures. And literally, I'm looking right now at a giant portrait I have of the Eiffel Tower on my wall in my room because I've just grown to be so fascinated with landmarks like that. And so that was a big tattoo inspiration to me. And much the same way, Black and Brave, that Class 22 is something that is going to follow me the rest of my career and life. Even, 50 years from now when I'm out of wrestling for good, when my body can't take it anymore, I'm going to want to look down at my left knee and remember what I went through 50 years earlier to get to where I'm at today. And Black and Brave was and is and always will be a big motivator for that. And that's why I have it tattooed on my body.
Is there any plans to get new ink in the future?
Potentially, yes. I've been thinking about getting a piece down the back of my spine, perhaps something, perhaps a saying of some sort, something for motivation, something in reference to working out or the gym specifically. A lot for people that don't know a lot about my personal story. I used to be well over 300 pounds. I used to be someone that was considered morbidly obese in life. And pro wrestling and also Black and Brave specifically was a time in life that really got me to realize that I need to take better care of myself, better care of my body, and I need to look how I want to feel and feel how I want to act, and that is to be an athlete, that is to be in shape, and that is to be the most presentable and best version of myself I can be. And I'm sure one day in the future soon, I'm going to have something related to that tattooed on my body as well.
Okay. Now, you're from, the New Jersey area. Black and Brave is not in New Jersey. It's Iowa, very far distance. In the area of, New York, New Jersey, there are a plethora of wrestling schools, all, legitimate with, a lot of great teachers. So what kind of made you, venture out to Iowa for Black and Brave rather than something that was in your backyard?
To be honest, it really came down to the fact that Seth Rollins, coach, if for whatever reason you hear this, just know that I love you. Seth Rollins has never been my favorite wrestler of any sort, at least not until I actually got to train under him and learn, I think, more about what it really means to be a great professional wrestler. Growing up, always being a WWE-centric wrestling fan, I always was very enamored by the John Cenas and the Jeff Hardys and the Undertakers, and these performers that, don't get me wrong, are fantastic WWE television style entertainers, wrestlers. But when you get down and you break down the fundamentals of what it takes to work your way up the ladder, to find something in yourself that you may not have known you had. I like to think, and I honestly believe this, that not a lot of people always looked at Tyler Black, Seth Rollins, Colby Lopez, and thought to themselves, that is the archetype of what a WWE sports entertainer, professional wrestler is. But the man has gone and exceeded all expectations for what anyone ever thought he was capable of. People used to think he would be the odd man out of the Shield when their big breakup happened. He rose to be the cream of the crop, I feel. And he has constantly reinvented himself time and time again as his career has progressed to whatever the fans have thought to be a new prime. This man has had, I think, 4 or 5 or even 6 primes at this point. I'm not talking about the energy drink. And has constantly been able to keep up with the newer generation of guys coming up, manage to stay on top, and always be someone that is looked at as a wrestler's wrestler. No matter what wacky song he might be singing or that horrific cackle he has to give every Monday night after a promo, the man is a wrestler's wrestler. And when it came time to figure out what I needed to base myself off of as a wrestler, I think to myself, I think I got this entertainment thing pretty down pat in my head. I like to think that I know what is needed of me to be a good WWE style wrestler. So how do I get the fundamentals down? How do I take care of all the in-betweens that a WWE wrestler needs to have, plus the personality? And that's Seth freaking Rollins.
All right. Now, I think it's time for that segment once again. Vincent's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Oh, man. Well, it's crazy because I've done a lot of road trips that haven't just involved being a wrestler. I've done a lot of road trips and travel as a fan of wrestling, as a ring crew. So I don't know. Would you like it to be something wrestler specific?
It doesn't have to be wrestling specific. Just a weird, crazy, bizarre adventure that you've been on.
Wow. Okay. Geez. So honestly, probably the craziest one for me was the first time I ever went up to Canada. Or I guess it would actually be the second time I went up there, technically. Yeah, because the first time I went, it was more of just a leisure kind of thing. Yeah, the second time as a wrestler, I'm going up there with my buddy, and he was doing production on the show, and I was getting a ride from him, and I was gonna be more of a go and shake hands type of thing. I'm not involved with the show, but I'm gonna do some crew, and I'm gonna go and just enjoy myself and meet some of the local guys. And I'd already attended the school associated with the actual promotion a time before, so it was going to be just a chance to get my feet in the door, maybe with this promotion up in Canada. I'm not going to name the promotion because as the story's going to go, it didn't exactly work out so well, and I probably really shouldn't get into the details of it. But long story short, I wasn't allowed into the show. There was a personal problem that I really don't feel the need to get into. For the sake of me and the other person involved, it's a non-issue now. But at the time, going on this very, very long road trip up to Canada, only to not be allowed in the building for the show, was quite concerning. And so I now find myself in the middle of this major metropolitan city in Canada, and nothing to do with myself, while my buddy goes and helps doing production with the show. Well, I've just got to do something, right? I can't get in the building. So, boy, I went on, I can't even describe it. I went on this bar crawl to one of the seedier parts of I can't describe any other, just like the seediest parts of Canada I could ever imagine existed. I basically wound up in this place that was like, it was like a club, but it was also like someone's apartment. And there were substances being passed around that I did not partake in but were offered to me. And just the kind of thing that I look at myself and I think to myself, how on earth did I ever get here? I should be at a wrestling show right now. And you know, I was able to make a few friends and, you know, just kind of enjoy the moment for what it was. I don't think I would ever even go back there unless I had a group to kind of like enjoy myself with. I'm not a big partier by myself as it is, so being surrounded by complete strangers in a completely strange country, you know, it wasn't the best experience in the world. But when you're talking weird, man, there's nothing weirder than a quasi bar apartment in Canada where people are trying to offer you things for currency that you don't have as well. And yeah, I guess that's all I got. I wish I had something more worth like sinking your teeth into. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
I mean, it seems like a bizarre adventure nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for every wrestler out there that probably has had a trip or two to Canada, that always thinks about, oh man, I got to go and wrestle in Canada. Well, I haven't got to wrestle in Canada yet, and hopefully that gets to happen soon. I'm sure in 2024 it will. But to go all the way up there to hopefully maybe make an opportunity for yourself and to have none of it go the way you thought it would, you know, there's something to be said for always making the best out of a bad situation. But it was pretty rough there for a few hours.
Nonetheless, a great story. Alright. Can you tell us about Meep Moop Guy?
Oh my god, do I have to?
Yes.
Sure. So the Meep Moop Guy was okay, I gotta lay some groundwork here, so please bear with me.
Sure.
For anyone that's watched WWE programming over the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years now, geez, yeah, probably at least 15 years, there are these, and honestly, I guess this does go back to the 90s, when you know of these super fans of pro wrestling fandom, dating back to Vladimir, going to all the East Coast shows and 90s WWF and et cetera, all the way up to the modern day with the infamous green shirt guy that always seems to be in the front row in the same seat at every single freaking show known to man, WWE, AEW, everything in between, and all these other guys, the Brock Lesnar guy, and all these wacky characters. They're all friends of mine. And for a long time, as someone that used to travel across the country and also used to sit ringside for shows literally all over the world now at this point, I always tried to find my niche. Like, what's a character I can have? What's something that people can know me for? And one day, this was at the Raw, the night after No Way Out 2012, at the Nassau Coliseum. And I'm getting the signs ready for the show. I'm in the parking lot at Nassau Coliseum. I had a front row ticket for the show. You couldn't see me on that show. People try to go back and look for it because I was on the hard cam side in the front row. So, like, no one could actually see me or my signs. But that day, for reasons unbeknownst to me, and still to this day I have no idea what it meant, John Cena tweeted at people something to the effect of, hey guys, if you're going to Raw tonight, please write hashtag Meep Moop on a sign. If you tweet it at me, I'll retweet it. And of course, then a million people decided to go and put hashtag Meep Moop on a sign, and he retweeted a whole bunch of them at the time. But me, I still had a blank poster. John Cena's always been my number one guy in wrestling, and I had a front row ticket, so I said to myself, let me write it on the sign and see what happens. Let's see if he sees me. So I do it, and I sit front row, and they do the whole show having confiscated all of our signs because everyone is in the hard cam section, and obviously, if you're sitting in front of the hard cam, you can't have any posters that could obstruct the camera view.
Right.
But I begged and I pleaded with security, just let me have it for the dark match. This sign is for John. Right, I might have even lied and said he knows who I am and wanted to see the sign. Right, something just to get it back in my hands by the time he came out. I think he did a handicap match after the show against David Otunga and John Laurinaitis. It was during that whole time in history. And he wins the match. I get the sign up in the air. He proceeds to keel over laughing at the fact that some kid from New Jersey got this sign in the front row at a WWE show hours after he tweeted about it. He threw me the first of what would be many pieces of memorabilia that he was wearing. It was a neon green wristband that he was wearing that night. And from then on, every time he saw me or every time I made it on camera of some sort for the next decade, I was the Meep Moop Guy. I had t-shirts, I had signs, and people would come up to me and be like, "Hey, you're that guy. You're the Meep Moop Guy." And I'm like, "I sure am." And that was my little piece of ego validation before actually getting into wrestling.
And you've actually, built up a rapport with John Cena over the years as well.
Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, the last time I got to see him, ironically, I had just gotten back from Clash at the Castle in Cardiff. I think it was 2 days after I got back from home from there. And it was the day before my birthday, September 8th. And at the time, John had started an association with this alcohol brand called Thomas Ashbourne. And he was doing a liquor bottle signing in Tampa, Florida, the day after on my birthday, just to, I guess, promote the product and sell some alcohol. And my friend Nicole, who lives in Tampa, texted me, "I just booked you a ticket. You better book your flight down here." And I said, "You know what? Yeah, I guess I have to do that." So I on about 12 hours notice, I booked a flight to Tampa 2 days after getting back from Cardiff, Wales. That ain't easy, folks. Flew my ass down to Tampa, Florida on my birthday to meet John Cena for the first time since I actually got into pro wrestling. This was 2022, so I had graduated Black and Brave about a year before. And after all the years of John Cena giving me pieces of his merchandise at shows, I've still got everything he's ever given me. I've got signed and worn t-shirts, I've got wristbands, I've got hats, everything you can think of from the guy. He's the most generous wrestler ever, in my opinion. I actually gave him my first piece of merchandise as a pro wrestler and got to thank him for everything he ever did to inspire me and give back to people like me wanting to get in the business. And we had a long, extended conversation that I've got all on video. My friend Nicole recorded the whole thing for me without my knowledge. And endless advice, as much as advice as you could think of out of a 15-minute conversation with John Cena one-on-one. He gave it to me that day. And I couldn't be more grateful. John, somehow, if you ever hear this, man, I love you, and you've done so much for me, and thank you.
All right. Now, you said, you've gotten a lot of pieces of memorabilia and merchandise from John Cena over the years. But can you tell us about getting donuts from Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville?
Oh my God. Wow. Yeah, so that was really cool. So this was that was SummerSlam weekend in 2021 in Las Vegas. And what was really cool about that was the fact that, right, it's late in the spring of 2021. We're just pretty much getting out of the worst parts of the pandemic. And I really wasn't expecting to get a whole lot of wrestler on fan interaction out of the weekend, just because you don't know how timid the company is going to be with talents going around and meeting fans. I think that was the weekend that Sasha Banks actually had COVID, and then Becky Lynch had to make her amazing return at that show and beat Bianca Belair, yada yada yada. Right. So at the time, I really didn't expect much in the sense of like getting to meet the guys, and a lot of them over the years have recognized me and such from meeting them so many times over. So for me, it's more than just a fan to wrestler thing. For me, it's more like a person to person thing, just saying hi to everybody. Right. Like I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go up to every single person and get a picture or I haven't gotten an autograph from anyone in years and years. It's more of just like, oh, hey, hope you're doing well. It's good to see you back, and blah blah blah. You're doing great and all that stuff, right? But that was one of the few things that they actually did over the weekend was Demandy's Donuts doing that little appearance there. And it was just nice because it gave me a chance to get together with some of my friends, go stand in line for a few hours, and buy some delicious donuts. My God, those two really know what they're doing. I wish they would keep that brand going because they really had something going there. But yeah, so that was just a really fun experience. And for the sweet tooth out there, if Demandy's Donuts ever comes back, go to their events because they got some really good food.
All right. Now, like you mentioned, you've been to a plethora of WWE events. I believe every single paid preview in 2022. So
Just about, yeah.
is there any event that you've been to that sticks out to you, was your favorite, or has any significant meaning to you?
Man, it's wild because I'm looking around my room right now at some of my ringside take-home chairs from pay-per-view and special TV events. I've got pretty close to 120 take-home chairs in my collection, by the way. So just to put a number on how many pay-per-views and special TV events alone I've been to over the last decade, not even counting regular Raws and SmackDowns and house shows and the like. Besides that, yeah, people ask me all the time about my favorite show I've been to, and I really try to narrow it down. The best I can do is maybe like a 3 as far as like real significant shows, and even then it's real rough because then you're comparing personal preference from like how like a great wrestling show could be vastly different from a show where I went and got seats next to 5 or 6 of my close friends and we all just had a ball all night long, regardless of the show's quality. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, I can distinctly remember the Raw after WrestleMania 34, the second one in New Orleans, where me and all of my friends, like 8 or 10 of us, I don't know how many people realize this, but the easiest way to get ringside tickets the day of a WWE show is by just going to the box office. There are always last-minute tickets available from production that get released. And they're not always front row seats, but you can always get stuff within ringside for, not the most expensive prices that you would expect, like from when shows first go on sale. They drop them a little bit, and that's usually how I get my seats over the years for people that might have always wondered about that. And it just so happened that for this Raw show, they pretty much released the entire front row on the hard cam side about an hour and a half before the show started.
Wow.
So me and about 8 or 9 of my closest friends from all over the country that always get together for the WrestleMania weekends and all the big events and all that, we all went and we bought out that front row and we just had a ball because it's just that kind of thing that, plenty of people always do it in groups. People will go and they'll get, let's say, 5 or 6 tickets in the 100 level section, or if they're really scrapping to get a bundle of seats together, the 200 level section. But to be in the front row for the Raw after WrestleMania with 8 or 10 of your closest buddies in the world from this fandom, and it was a great show to boot, but just to have that experience with all of your friends. It's like a show like that always sticks out in my head for that reason. If you're talking like actual show quality, you're probably talking the more recent WrestleManias, like WrestleMania Night 1 this year was an especially a great one. WrestleMania 28, I thought I was really fond of just because it was Rock and Cena, and even though it wasn't like the best show in the world, just that kind of buzz over a match like that. It's like sometimes it feels like you're the only one in the crowd. WrestleMania 30 actually is another great example of this. To be sitting third row from ringside when the streak ended right, is a moment that I can't say will ever be topped as far as like my live experiences as a fan. And regardless of the show's quality, things like that are always going to make it more memorable than your great Raw or your other great secondary pay-per-view.
Right. My friend and co-host Kaliko was at that WrestleMania as well, and it was his very first WrestleMania, and he was like, "Son of a bitch, the first WrestleMania I go to, The Undertaker loses."
Jeez. Yeah, I started going to WrestleManias with 24, and ironically, besides the one where my coach cashed in his Money in the Bank and won the World Championship, ironically, besides that one, I've been to every WrestleMania since 24. So,
Ironically enough, that was the WrestleMania I was at.
oh well, there you go, and I have told myself, whether it's a fan or otherwise, I will be at every single WrestleMania until the day I perform on a WrestleMania. That is the goal I'm going to set myself to.
Okay, and that's a good goal to have. Is there any event that other than WrestleMania 30 that you didn't get to go to and wish that you had, or maybe an event you wanted to go to but like then saw it and said, "Yeah, I'm glad I didn't go to it."
That's actually really hard to describe because, for the most part, I've been to pretty much every major show in this country in the last, 10 to 15 years now. My first ever pay-per-view, not sitting ringside, my first pay-per-view, though, I ever went to was the Royal Rumble where John Cena came back and won for the first time.
At the Garden.
Yeah, so when you're just talking about benchmark events that I wish I could be there for, it's a really narrow list besides like the obvious, like WrestleMania 31. I really didn't think it looked like a great show on paper. It just didn't work out money-wise to go that year. But the second that my coach's music hit, I said to myself, I can never let this happen again. Because you just never know when something historical is going to happen at a WrestleMania. There's a small part of me that does wish I was at Survivor Series last weekend, or 2 weekends ago from when the show will be airing, just because I've always been a big Punk guy, and it would have been nice to be in that reaction. But at the end of the day, I'm a pro wrestler, and I need to start accepting the fact that if I ever want to get to be like guys like CM Punk, that I need to start making wrestling more of a priority. I'll always go to the big event here and there, like I'll obviously be at the Royal Rumble 2 months from now, I'll be at WrestleMania. But everything in between, it's going to depend on my schedule because you know what? I had a booking, and bookings come first right now. And if you're looking to book me, the son of wrestling Vincent Michaels, DM me on Instagram or Twitter, and also hit me up on Facebook if you want to.
Hell yeah. Alright. Outside of pro wrestling, you actually you are very talented when it comes to art. Can you tell us about some of your pieces and your love of art?
It's interesting, the whole art thing, because art has always been more of a hobby to me. I never saw myself as enough of a talent to really make a career out of it. But for my limitations when it comes to the art field, really what a lot of my art translates to now is my work in the ring. All of my gear that people can have a look at, I usually make sure to post my sets of gear and credit the actual gear makers on my Facebook. But I design every single piece wear scratch. I design every guy wear strangers and be like, hey man, this is a really cool graphic. Can you help make me one? Or, oh, can I have some tips on how to design some really sweet gear? Like, I know you don't make it, but you definitely seem to have a head for like what looks good on a person, and I take pride in that, a lot of it. From a more rudimentary standpoint, I love drawing. I love painting, and I'm a real detail-oriented kind of guy, real perfectionist type. I will go back and erase one little thing 100 times over until I get it right and I get it perfect, and it's never going to be perfect. And a lot of that translates into wrestling. I never go back and watch my own matches because I know that I'm going to rip myself apart. And, there's always constructive criticism, but I look to other wrestlers and other veterans and other people in the match for criticisms because I am way too hard on myself as a perfectionist. So art, I guess, just to kind of sum it up, is something that I've always had a lot of what's the term? A big association with, but I don't want to say that art necessarily defines me. If that makes sense.
I got you. Well, a part of my art and a part of my perfectionism is finding the most obscure thing I could possibly find about my guest.
Oh my god. Oh god, here we go.
Can you tell us about your time in the titty bouncy castle?
Oh my god. Sure I can. Okay, so this goes out to anybody and everybody in the continental United States that is, I believe you have to be, I forgot if it's 18 or 21 and up. But if you're ever in New York City and you want to go to the weirdest but most fascinating place you can think of, you need to go to the Muesum of Sex. And the Muesum of Sex, I got to take a trip there. My college actually did a trip to the Muesum of Sex, which I can't believe they allowed. But it was a tremendous time because, besides just being a literal store for various, items of the phallic nature, they also have a literal museum attached. And you can go into this museum and they have artifacts and memorabilia going back to, probably like the 1800s, as far as like the adult entertainment industry. And it's a really fascinating part of your mind to be in a place like this and not let it feel like something dirty, right? You're in this highly populated place that a lot of people want to go to and not feel ashamed about being like, ooh, look at this thing, or ooh, look at that. Like, it doesn't make you feel weird inside, is the best way to explain it. And then you get to the more wacky parts of the museum, and there is, in fact, a bouncy castle full of titties. And I believe it's, at the time I went, it was, I think, $3 for an entry for, you get a few minutes in there. And of course, no one's really bouncing around in there. You go in there for the photo op, right? And you basically just stand in a line with all your buddies taking odd pictures and reels and videos in a titty bouncy castle. But, for someone that wants to get a bit out of their comfort zone, I don't know why I'm giving them a plug, but screw it. Go to the Muesum of Sex in New York City. And if, for whatever reason, if they ever hear this, please give me a free day pass and I will go and record promos in that fucking thing. I hope it's okay to say that word I just said, but I'll do it.
Yes, but don't encourage them.
Oh, no, never.
All right. It is now time for the colossal question. Let's say that they're making a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on your movie soundtrack?
Oh boy. Okay, so I feel like this would have to be like the overarching song, but House of the Rising Sun. Because it's at various promotions right now. It's currently my theme song and my favorite theme song, just because, right, it's very fitting, House of the Rising Sun, but it's also got a very calming element. I think it's something that could be used for a lot of background type footage, right? Like more like a montage type thing. Song number 2 would probably have to be oh jeez. Probably something by the Struts. I love the Struts. I love British music, British rock specifically, so probably something by the Struts. I just love all their music so much. And then if I'm gonna be a prude and kind of just keep it to artists for the sake of not having to commit to certain songs, I'm gonna say a song by Bring Me the Horizon, just because you know they're on the top of my list right now as far as like who I listen to every day for whether I need inspiration, whether I need a good workout song or just something to help calm my nerves. I mean, I think they got all the bases covered, so. I think a song from them, a song from the Struts, and House of the Rising Sun would be songs I would use for a movie about me.
But what version of the House of the Rising Sun? Everybody's covered that genre at one point.
I like the original. I've used various covers of it for various entrances to kind of test how I feel about them, but I always got to go for the OG just because as many people like to do covers, I don't know. There's something that I feel off when I don't come out to the original only.
All right, solid picks. Now that we got the soundtrack down, then we write the script, then we go to casting. Who plays Vincent? And you can't say yourself because you are obligated to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo.
Oh man, okay. Actually, could I make my cameo as Seth Rollins? Because that'd be funny.
Sure, why not?
All right. Geez, people are gonna hate me for that. Okay, but seriously, man, see, it's tough because there aren't a lot of people that look like me. Well, okay, I say that, but I mean, I guess there is a go-to. I'm not going to give you an actor because I really don't have enough of a film background knowledge. I don't have a catalog of actors in my head that I think could do a good enough representation of me. I always go more for looks and personality. I'm going to go with a man that I've been told a lot recently that I have a stark resemblance to. I even dressed as him for Halloween this year. I'm going to say Bryan Danielson.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, just because Bryan Danielson more often than not is known to be a really charming guy with a real seedy underbelly, and I like to think that I come across that way in my real life and also as a wrestler. And what can I say? People say we look alike, and Bryan Danielson, if for some reason you ever hear this, brother, let's lock it up before you retire, all right? I'm just throwing it out there. We can do a mirror match like the two doinks. We can do it.
All right. Now that we have the main character down, every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people in your movie that's significant to you and your story? And if you can cast them as well.
Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna have oh boy, 3 people. It has to be my mom. My mom has always been my biggest support system my entire life. A single mom to boot. She's put up with way too much of me as a kid, helping me get to all of these shows when I couldn't get there on my own accord, having to drive me sometimes literally across several states just to make sure that her son got to go to the shows that he wanted to go to, just to entertain himself, right? Not even for any benefit, just because I wanted it. She made it happen for me. Her casting. Oh, geez. I think I'm gonna go without the castings because it's gonna be too much to balance in my head right now. That's okay.
Fair enough. We could leave it to casting.
Sure. The second character is gonna have to be my girlfriend, my sweetheart, the love of my life, Tasha. She is from the United Kingdom, and babe, if you ever hear this, I love you. And she was one of the major pushing factors when the pandemic was at its roughest. And she's from England, so we were doing a heavy duty long distance relationship at the time. And it didn't look like there was anything on the horizon to hope for in 2020, and it just seemed like we were both just wasting away. I didn't have anything to do with my life. I was just doing nothing but work, 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 nothing to entertain myself with, no shows to go to. She's the one that put her foot down and said, Michael, it's time you go to wrestling school because it's now or never, and you've got the money saved because you're not traveling and going to shows as you usually do, and this is your dream, so it's now or never. And I was like, you know what, babe, you're right, it is never. As much as she doesn't like that credit, because at the end of the day, I went to the school, I put in the work, I did it on my own, I would not be there if it wasn't for her. And hopefully she is going to be with me through the entirety of this journey, the highs, the lows, everything in between. And she's got to have part in this. Her name is Tasha, if I didn't say that before.
Yes.
So we've got my mom, we've got her, and the last one, it's got to be John Cena, probably played by John Cena.
Yeah.
because John Cena is, like I said, he's the guy. He's the one that, regardless of every bridge that I've built with other wrestlers, whether they're in WWE or now that I'm on the independents, John Cena was the first one to extend that olive branch. He was the first guy in the professional wrestling business to make me feel like not an outsider, to make me feel like I'm capable of being more than myself because of his story and the way that he tells the story and the way that his story resonates with me, and just being the guy that is always outgoing, always happy to ask a person how they are doing, even if he's having the worst day of his life. And I always try to be that when I see a guy like a John Cena, a guy that I'm sure gets asked endless things of him day after day after day in his, very successful, very frugal career, but probably very seldomly actually gets, hey man, how are you doing today? Hey man, how are you feeling? Are you doing all right? Because he was always like that with me when he didn't have to be. Because who the hell am I, right? He's John Cena, and I want to be the next John Cena so I can be that same role model for the next generation of wrestlers to come up.
All right. And if Daniel Bryan is playing you, then we have John Cena giving advice to Daniel Bryan. His almost
Sure, why not?
his almost brother-in-law.
So what you're saying is the story of my life is Total Divas. All right.
Oh my god, I did not expect that. Either way, it does sound like an incredible movie, and you could pre-order the tickets now. All right. On to a more controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
Oh God, why? Okay, I'm gonna be fair here. I don't hate pineapple on pizza. It just I can't. I need to move past this. I've already cursed enough on the show. I can't have it. I can't soil the young listeners' minds anymore by going on a rant about how pineapple doesn't belong anywhere near a pizza or anything from that matter. Pineapple is disgusting, and pizza is something that should be treasured. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because I don't want parents to tell their kids, hey, you can't listen to this show anymore because that Vincent dude kept cursing up a storm about pineapple on pizza. We can't have it, James. I'm sorry.
Hey, you're not going to curse more than Masha did when she was on, and you're not going to be any more explicit than Mickey Knuckles was. She is in the Hall of Fame for how explicit that interview was.
Sure.
But we are not anti-pineapple on pizza. We are very anti-pineapple on pizza. Correct?
Whatever.
Alright. What's your spirit Pokemon?
Snorlax.
Hell yeah. We love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Thug? THUG.
Oh man. This is something like when I was younger and I was big into wrestling trivia. Oh, I used to know this. Oh man. God bless Tracy. I'm sorry, I can't remember.
T is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for
Ugly.
jail.
G
Because a
is
duck
for
can't spell.
yeah.
Yes, we love the late great Tracy Smothers, trying to keep the memory alive on the show.
God bless.
Now, the weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview, hopefully. Would you ever consider wrestling a rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical rock.
I mean, I don't know. Can I tag team with it and legally hit Steve off across the head with it? Does that count?
Sure, why not?
Troy Locke. If you ever hear this, buddy, I got a new match stipulation.
Well, just for context, there is a wrestler named Psycho Mike that wrestled an actual rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match. That's an Iron Man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
I think I'm in the right line of work.
On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
On television in some form, I have done extra work for Major League Wrestling, MLW, and Impact Wrestling, soon to be rechristened as TNA Wrestling once again. And so I'm already starting to make blips here or there. And 5 years from now, earnestly, I'm going to be on television in some form, whether it's wrestling full time or doing something or another, representing myself, even if I'm on the independent scene. I'll be there. I'll make it somewhere.
And is there a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what you are all about?
It's weird. I don't really like to recommend matches. I'm of the opinion that your last match is your worst match. And that mentality will always keep you on your toes to do better than the last time you were in a ring. I'm not the kind of guy that likes to be complacent, and I can get very complacent. It's a dirty habit to fall into when you're trying to keep up with the grind of what pro wrestling is, especially at the independent level, right? People have their routines. You go in there, you do your shtick, and you get out, and you're happy to make a decent pay and live to fight another day. I'm not like that. I like to go outside the box, and I like to get outside of my comfort zone. I like to do things that maybe I don't know if I can do but damn it, I'm gonna try. So I guess the most recent example I can think of this is for a promotion called Shore Star Wrestling. I wrestled this kid from France named R1. He's a gamer, and it is by far the most dynamic match I've ever had. You know, for what I say and present myself as a character, it was the most minimal character work I've actually ever done in a match, and a lot more focused on big moves and a lot of kickouts and a lot of flashy stuff that I didn't know I could do until I got in there and tried it. And that, I don't think it was the best match of my career, but I definitely looked at it as potential for what I can be as a wrestler in the future. So if you look up Shore Star Wrestling, you'll find that match from their most recent show.
All right, and on YouTube, correct?
I believe, I'm actually not entirely sure if it's on YouTube or if it's on a separate service.
Okay.
I'll be honest.
If it is on YouTube, I will find the link to the match, and I will put it in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox, for anybody that hasn't seen it, wants to see it, wants to re-see it after this interview.
Thank you, James.
And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom.
Dun, dun, dun.
This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Worst wrestler.
Vincent Michaels.
No, I will not accept that answer.
Geez, I don't know. James Ellsworth.
I will accept that answer. You're main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Seth Rollins.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
John Cena.
My time is now, right?
Yep.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Carney.
We would have also accepted taste great on toast. Squash. Vegetable or fruit?
Vegetable.
It is indeed a fruit. It has seeds. Tomato logic. New Japan wrestler Tai Chi. His ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
You're talking to a guy that doesn't have an ass. So for me, it's got to be it's got to be all tights.
So full coverage.
Yeah.
All right. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Yes. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
Why do I feel like I have? How much research do you do for this show?
Well, if you have you?
Yeah, I think so, yes. I work in a supermarket, and I have, in fact, I think I have talked about Darby Allin with a coworker before.
so indeed have talked about Darby Allin in a supermarket.
That's research for you folks. Wrestling with Entertainment, they know their stuff.
We did research that we didn't even know that we researched.
My God.
That is, of course, the correct answer. And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me.
Thank you for having me, James.
Once again, where can we find all things Vincent Michaels on social media and your merchandise?
If you're looking for the son of wrestling, Vincent Michaels, for booking inquiries, podcasts, anything of that sort, you're going to look up the name at Vincent, Vincent, Michaels, with an S at the end. You're going to email V as in Victor, Michaels13 at gmail.com for any and all booking inquiries. And if you want a piece of the sun, piece of merchandise, you're going to go to prowrestlingtees.com and you're going to look up Vincent Michaels. The URL don't work. You're going to have to use the search bar.
And you don't even have to type it into your Google machine. All of the links to all his social media and merchandise will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox. Simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Buy a damn shirt. Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, both on YouTube and Castbox. This was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. Join us tomorrow as we interview Lola Harvey. On the 13th, Jessica Black, and on the 20th, Angel Blue. And join us every Tuesday and Wednesday for new incredible interviews. Follow the show at Wrestling with E, but on X, Instagram, and Dread. Follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, Vincent, when I say wrestling wit, you say entertainment, okay?
Alright.
For our race special guest, Vincent Michaels, Kaliko Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.